Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin.
Officials have declared a state of emergency. Everybody they kill gets up and kills. Residents are advised to find a safe place and stay there.
Execute Code Red.
The Doomsday Machine.
We celebrate our Independence Day.
All right, you hear those sirens once again. That means the disaster continues. The Spookshow Summer Disaster rolls on, and we're celebrating Independence Day with Smoke's choice, Independence Day. I think it's
well. It couldn't be more obvious of a choice.
Yeah, it's on point. It's on point. It's perfect though. I mean, like, if we were ever going to do this movie, it was best that we waited until this moment. We're doing the Summer Disaster series. Right here in the middle of the summer. It's perfect. So it works out. Technically, Independence Day is July 4th holiday here in the United States. Is tomorrow, if you're listening to it here on Monday the 3rd, or even earlier if you're a patron over on patreon.com/AASpookshow. But this is how we chose to celebrate. And luckily, throughout all the disasters that we've done so far, I mean, we have survived so far a fucking kaiju giant-sized monster attack on Tokyo, a meteor hitting the planet, post-apocalyptic wasteland where they have to save the Bible, nuclear holocaust. But we've made it here, and throughout all that destruction, we were finally able to search through the rubble and find Willie. He's here.
Release me. Release me.
No, we wanted Willie, not Data from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Yep. It's good that you finally made it through the disaster.
Well, I've been working through all of my own disasters, so here I am.
Hooray! We got some catching up to do. Now, I know you haven't watched everything that you've missed out on, but you have watched a few things, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. But obviously, if you haven't been clued in just yet, we are the All-American Spook Show podcast. I'm Josh, and I'm joined here with Donnie.
Yo.
Will.
Really? Okay, sorry.
Oh, you already did that just a minute ago. And the Professor
I thought it was a good bit.
Yeah, it was. Smoke, you here? Apparently he
What?
died. Oh, there he is. There he is. Okay. Whew. Thank God. I was like, damn it, we found Willie in the role. But now Smoke's missing. What the fuck?
I'm on.
But yeah, we're all here. We're all here to celebrate July 4th holiday, and only or at least the best way we know how. But like I said, before we get into that, we'll take a trip down memory lane here to some of the flicks that Will missed out on because he's missed a lot of time here lately. So we'll go back to some of the flicks that you did get a chance to see, and we'll start with episode 150, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the classic Tobe Hooper flick from 1974. And you said this was the first time you watched it, right?
Yeah, it was the first time I've seen it.
What'd you think?
Honestly, I really expected the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What would you call him? Does he have a name?
Well, Leatherface.
Oh, Leatherface?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Space for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I really expected Leatherface to be in there a whole lot more. What did he have? Like 5 minutes of screen time total?
Yeah, at least until you get toward the end, right, Smoke?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a while before they even get to the point of getting to the house, to the family's house, before like you said, before you see Leatherface. I forget how far into the movie it is, but it's a good little ways. I mean, more than a quarter maybe, or at least a quarter way into the movie before you even see him at all.
Yeah.
Did we ever see his face there?
Oh, you mean like without the mask? I don't think so.
Yeah. Because I almost wonder, like, was he the redheaded guy sitting at the gas station with the dad?
No, I don't. Yeah, you know what? That's fine. I don't think so, but it never got back to that guy, did it? I guess he's just some, I don't know, local that hangs around there. Is he part of the family? I never even thought about that guy until just now when you said that.
I don't think so. I think they kind of kept Leatherface hidden in the back room. So like, I don't think anybody ever saw him.
But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Like Smoke said, though, it was a very slow burn. Like, I had to adjust to that. But yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty good. I think I'm going to go 4 on that one.
That's pretty much on par with what we said. Donnie gave it 4.5, and Smoke and I gave it 5. So That'll bring the consensus up to 4.6 stars. So that's about as honestly, it's about as good as it gets here on the Spook Shows for sure. Very,
and that's
rare
much
air.
higher than I would have rated it the first time I saw it, because first time I saw it was back in the 80s and all that. But I had all this build up. I think I mentioned it probably on that episode. All this build up in my head on, it's hype on it. Like, it's gonna be the super gory chainsaw, ripping limbs off and all this stuff. And then when I watched it and it wasn't exactly that, I was a little bit disappointed. I probably would have given this movie a lot lower ratings that first time I saw it. And then it took me another, 2 or 3 watch before I realized what a masterpiece it was.
Well, I also think, like there are certain movies that need to be rated highly historically.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I would have been right there with you, Smoke. If I'd have seen it like way back in the day, but just the fact that this was my first time watching it, and I know, where this kind of falls.
But we'll fast forward. There was a handful of other movies you haven't had a chance to watch yet, but we'll fast forward. And you did get a chance to watch back in just a couple episodes ago, episode 164. We watched Don't Look Up from 2021. So what do you think of that one?
Oh, dude, I really enjoyed this movie. Like honestly, for me, like anything you throw up about space, it's just like disaster films. Like you don't have to have a good story. If it has a good story, that's just icing on the cake.
You just want to see. You just want to see destruction, death.
Oh God,
widespread destruction.
Yes. And like while it did take a while for the meteor to finally hit, the special effects of like everything blowing up. Oh man,
it literally took the entire movie for the meteor to find, because that was the story of the thing coming.
Yeah, it was so satisfying when it hit.
Yeah, it was.
And I felt like everything looked pretty good.
So what's your?
So yeah, I enjoyed that one.
What was your star rating on it?
I think I'm going to go with a 4 on that one.
That was a little higher than what we all said, but I think overall, except for Smoke, he didn't like it quite as much as we did. But overall, that brings it up to over 3.1 stars, so 3 stars across the board.
Yeah,
for that one.
Yeah, for me with that one, like I went in knowing, I think I'd seen it relatively soon after it like got dropped online.
Yeah, it was a Netflix.
So like I knew it was kind of somewhat of a heavy-handed political satire piece.
Yeah.
And I just sat there and enjoyed it for all of that, and then the special effects at the end, just money.
Yeah. And the last one that we needed to catch up on was the Book of Eli from episode 165 from the year 2010. What'd you think of that one?
Honestly, I think I'm going to give that one about a 3. It was fine. It wasn't bad. He could have just went around without the book, since he had it memorized.
Yeah.
I don't know why he made such a big deal about keeping it.
I love. We talked about that in the episode. And by the way, spoiler alert: if you haven't seen any of these movies, but specifically to the Book of Eli, go watch it. You don't want to hear what I'm about to say, but like, I just love that they were able to transcribe the thing, like the entire Holy Bible, in what seemed like just a couple of days. Like, just go ahead, and he starts saying it, and then one dude's writing it down.
Also, like what Will just said kind of struck something with me too. Is like, yeah, he's walking around with this knowledge in his head, and he's keeping the book because he wanted to keep the book out of the hands of the wrong people, right?
Yeah.
To get the ideas from the book and to control people. But yet he dictates it to somebody who like writes it out, and then I assume they're probably going to publish it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Well, or make more copies of it.
Well, they did, right? They started off busting off the print right there. I think as soon as they like wrote it down, it shows them like didn't it say like he puts it on the shelf, but it says like San Quentin Printing or something like that on it. Or not San Quentin. What was it? Was it San Quentin?
I forget the Alcatraz.
Yeah, Alcatraz. It says Alcatraz Printing like on the side of the book. So yeah, like they clearly start busting them off at that point.
Protecting the book. Yeah. But
well, I guess he only kept the book because it was Braille, and he's just like, you know what? This is going to be an awesome joke to play on somebody when they steal this book. He kept it for.
And it would have been funny, like if there was like an extended version of that, where it's just like, all right, are y'all ready? In the beginning, there was Theo.
Yeah. He just starts purposely like saying it all wrong.
Just making stuff up.
Yeah. And then they write the whole thing down and say, I was just fucking with you. Here it is. And then he does it again. So yeah, there you go. 3 stars from you for the Book of Eli. That brings it to just over 3 stars. So pretty much right on par with Don't Look Up. So there, we'll leave it there for now. And hopefully you're able to catch up on a few of the other movies that you've missed over the last, few months or so. and we'll catch you up to date on that. But let's get back to Independence Day here. Before we dive into the background like we usually do, I'll go ahead and throw out some of the usual information. You can go to aaspookshow.com. That's the center of the Spook Show universe. From there, you can listen to our podcast archives. You can go to our Patreon, also at patreon.com/aaspookshow. Lots of bonus stuff like Crafterpiece Theater going on over there. Also, we encourage you to check out our YouTube channel from there, where you get other cool series on our YouTube channel, like Grindhouse Gutter, Video Vortex, Hammer Horror and Order. Lots of cool stuff going on over there, so we encourage you to check it out. So without any further build-up, we'll go and toss to the trailer for Independence Day.
Say the skies are clear. It's the real thing. A radio signal from another world.
Mr. President, our intelligence tells us the object is settled into a stationary orbit. Part of it is broken off into nearly 36 other pieces, smaller than the whole circle, yet over 15 miles in width themselves.
Where are they heading?
They should be entering our atmosphere within the next 25 minutes.
Let's just get there as quickly as possible.
What's the rush, huh? Think we'll get to Washington and won't be there?
It is confirmed. The unexplained phenomenon is headed for Moscow.
It's like a chess. First they're positioning their pieces, using this one signal to synchronize their efforts. And then what? Checkmate.
I really don't think they flew 90 billion light years to start a fight.
God, I hope they bring back Elvis!
There's gonna be a lot of frightened people out there.
Yeah. I'm one of them.
Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Something you want to add to this briefing, Captain Hiller?
No, sir. I'm just a little anxious to get up there and whoop E.T.'s ass, that's all.
All right, there you go. That's the trailer for that. Now, before we dive into the background stuff, man, you really can't overblow or overstate how big of this was like one of the first, felt to me like big blockbuster movies, right? Like, I mean, I know there were other ones, but that preceded it, but this was fucking massive when it came out, right?
Yeah, the only thing I can really think of in recent, well, and not in recent memory, in memory from that time period, I guess that would have been close, would be Jurassic Park, maybe 2 years before.
Yeah,
but that's
a good point.
And then this one, that's the only two I can think of that were that much blockbusters.
I remember Batman came out in 1989. That was a pretty big deal, obviously. Yeah. And there were other movies that were highly successful, and like you said, Jurassic Park. But this one was like, as soon as you saw the trailer that we just listened to there, you knew like, oh fuck, this is gonna be fucking huge. I got to see this, and like everybody just flocked to the theaters that summer. It was truly has to be one of the first enormous summer blockbusters. I mean, they made it for a budget of $75 million. But the worldwide box office ended up being $817.4 million, which by today's standards isn't like crazy, but 1996, right? Pretty fucking big. This is pre-Titanic.
Yeah, they were pushing out some blockbusters at that point. After, I mean, well, like I said, you had Jurassic Park, and you had this, and you had Titanic, and then I mean, that time in the '90s. And actually, watching this movie, I actually miss movies created the way this movie was, the way the summer blockbuster was from that era. I think they had a great blueprint on how to do it right.
Yeah, and we'll get into that, but I think they definitely made the blueprint here with this one. As far as like having something that kept pushing the story forward, but giving you all the action and everything that you want along the way. This kind of started it for really kind of re-kick-started like a lot of what we're talking about here in the Summer Disaster with these big epic disaster type flicks. This was the one that kind of got everybody to, go see these type of movies again, right? Because there was like a period in the 70s where they made these type of movies, and then they had kind of stopped for a while. There would be the occasional one, but there weren't a lot. Then this one came out, and then all of a sudden there's Armageddon and Twister, and you're right, there was just one after another for, the next decade after this. I only have one alternative title, but that's more of like a shortening. You may see it as ID4. It premiered June 25th, 1996 in Los Angeles, but it was released wide July 3rd, 1996, and it was produced by Centropolis Entertainment and, of course, distributed by 20th Century Fox. It was rated PG-13, total runtime of 2 hours and 25 minutes, and later on they released a special edition, which included 9 more minutes, so that one came in at 2 hours and 34 minutes. And I actually watched that one for this, since it had been a while since I watched it, so I decided to watch the special edition instead. And I'll talk about some of the differences. They're not glaring, massive differences, but I'll point out some of the differences here shortly. On IMDb, it's listed as an action/adventure/sci-fi. It was filmed here in the United States, like all over the United States. I mean, literally in locations from Washington, D.C. all the way to Los Angeles. From July 28th through October 8th of 1995. For, like I said earlier, a budget of $75 million, and it went on to a worldwide gross of $817.4 million. I've got the top 10 in the box office that weekend that it came out. So this was basically your July 4th weekend. So this is the weekend of July 5th through the 7th, 1996. Number 10, The Cable Guy. Number 9, Mission Impossible, the first one of like 18 of those movies now. Number 8, Twister. So actually, Twister had already been out at 9 weeks at this time, so I guess you could kind of count Twister as one of the precursors to these big disaster-type flicks, right? At least as far as slightly prior to this one. Number 7, one of Donnie's favorites, Striptease. It was in the second week. I remember you telling me back then you went and saw that. Number 6. You really got nothing to add to that, huh? Number 6,
I did.
The Rock. That was Sean Connery, right?
Yeah.
And wasn't Nicolas Cage in that too? I believe.
I think he was.
Yeah. Number 5, Eraser. I believe that was a Schwarzenegger flick. Number 4, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's a Disney animated flick that was in its third week. And the 2 big movies that opened that weekend, the first one at number 3, Phenomenon. Number 2, it had been out for 2 weeks. One of Smoke's favorites, The Nutty Professor.
Yeah, the Eddie Murphy one, right?
Yep. And number 1, the big winner at the box office, surprise, surprise, Independence Day. It made just over $50 million in its opening weekend. Once again, today's standards, not crazy, but back then that was quite a bit. Yeah, there's your the old box office snapshot there for July 5th through the 7th, 1996. This actually won an Oscar for Best Visual Effects, and it was nominated for Best Sound, but it lost that Academy Award to The English Patient, which is so weird to compare those 2 movies in any way, right? I guess if you're going to, Best Sound is as good a category as any.
Yeah.
Ironically,
and also that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, ironically, it was nominated for a Razzie as well for worst written film, grossing over $100 million, which is super specific. But it lost that Razzie, though, to Twister, ironically. So there's that.
Man, just wait. These people that gave out these Razzies they need to come forward to get in a time machine and come to this year and check out some of the storyline. Some of these movies, if they thought those were bad.
You ain't gonna believe this shit. But the cast on this, first and foremost, we'll say this was directed by Roland Emmerich, written by Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich. But the cast on this one is especially of the time, but even looking back on it, it's a who's who, right? Will Smith, Bill Pullman, Jeff Goldblum, Mary McDonald, Judd Hirsch, Robert Loggia, everybody's favorite character actor, Robert Loggia, Randy Quaid, Harvey Firestein, Adam Baldwin, Brent Spiner, who, was Data in Star Trek The Next Generation, Vivica A. Fox. The list goes on and on. Mae Whitman, who plays the president's daughter, she went on to bigger and better things, when she got a little older. But yeah, huge cast for the time. Lots of character actors too. Like a lot of that when you're watching it, like, hey, it's that guy or that woman, Tons of those in this one. Like it seems like there's like a rolling cast of these type of people that always play in these late 90s, early 2000s disaster movies too. If you notice, it's a lot of the same people, in various roles.
Also, speaking of Jeff Goldblum and Jurassic Park, because he was in that, of course. He even has the same line at one point, right? Something about we must go faster when they're leaving the mothership.
Yeah.
Same line in Jurassic Park and Jeep.
Now, as far as some of the differences that I was talking about with the special edition and the theatrical cut, it's mostly like exposition type stuff. A few more dialogue lines, stuff like that. Maybe showing a little bit more of a wider shot in a scene or something like that. But apparently, one of the biggest differences is Russell's suicide attack. Randy Quaid's character. Apparently, that was a much bigger. They played that one a little bit bigger and made it more impactful moment, like because they gave Russell a little bit more screen time in the special edition, so it made that moment even bigger when he kind of, goes in there and takes him down himself. So that was one of the biggest differences, really. For the most part, though, to me, it felt like the same movie. Like there was no massive like, holy shit, why did they cut that out kind of stuff. So did you guys have any other background stuff that you dug up?
I've got one piece that's probably only interesting to me.
All right.
Is the Black Knights VF? What was it VF? I forget what they were. Their squadron number right now, but they were a real actual F-18.
The bad motherfucker squadron or something.
Yeah. Talking offline. I know you thought I said the BMFs. You thought I said? I think it was a BMF.
BMF. Yeah.
BMF. The bad motherfuckers. We'll go with that. But there were a real squadron called the Black Knights and the FA-18 Hornet Squadron, and I was happened to be in the Navy at the same time as they were on the USS Abraham Lincoln over in the Gulf for Operation Southern Watch. But like I said, that's only interesting to me. Nobody else gives a shit about that. But I thought,
no, that's cool. I mean, and too, like that just reminds me when you're talking about that, like this really felt like this was at that crossroads. I guess maybe just in time as far as when they were still making movies like this, where there's probably more practical effects in here than you remembered. Obviously, there's tons of CGI, but a lot of model work type stuff. I think here, like they would build the city or like the White House and stuff like that to scale, and then they blew it up and stuff like that. Like this wasn't like a CGI. Yep. Yeah. Like this wasn't as CGI heavy as something like this would be today. They were still kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out on the practical effects here.
And then, there was an explosion. There was an explosion. Like there was the ships, shooting lasers at them, hitting the ground or whatever. You would see a real explosion where somebody's running or whatever, rather than a CG visual optical effect explosion or something.
Yeah.
Something else I found also was Roland Emmerich was he actually found out that Robert Loggia was really pissed off and wouldn't come out of his trailer. Turned out to be that Dean Devlin suggested that Loggia watch Airplane for some inspiration for when he actually meant to suggest Airport. And then Loggia watched Airplane and he got really pissed off because he thought he was in a spoof movie.
Yeah. I wonder how far into Airplane he got. Like, did he watch like a portion of it or did he watch the whole thing? Like, what the hell is this?
The hell is this?
I'm Robert Loggia, damn it.
Am I supposed to be the air traffic control guy?
Hilarious.
He just keeps poking his head in. I just want you to remember, we're all counting on you.
No, I thought this was kind of interesting too. That most of the scenes with Jeff Goldblum, Judd Hirsch, and Will Smith were pretty much all improvised.
That's pretty cool. I could definitely believe that with those guys, especially like Jeff Goldblum being kind of the way he is, and Judd Hirsch just being the old pro. I made the note. That you just reminded me with the Judd Hirsch thing. I made a note when I was watching it. If you notice, like at this point, Judd Hirsch is probably in his 40s or 50s, something like that, and he's I believe when I looked it up, how old is he now? He's like 83. He's 88. He's 88 years old now. How come he's been playing a grumpy old man since he was in his 40s? Like he almost looks and acts the exact same way now at 88 that he did when he was fucking 38. I mean, hell, you could even argue kind of acted like that when he was in Taxi back in the late 70s, early 80s, whenever that came out. Like, except he was just a little younger, but he still acted like the the grumpy old man role. I guess he's just perfect at it, so that's his thing. But even to this day, he's not
He
acting
got
anymore.
scared
He's
of
Judd
the
Hirsch.
grumpy old man, and that was it, I guess.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't even think he's acting anymore. He just shows up and he's Judd Hirsch today. Every day.
There was one other thing was that
go
the
ahead.
alien managed to make the cover of Time magazine in July 1st, 1996.
That's
issue.
all.
Yeah.
I'm sure that 20th Century Fox didn't pay for that at all.
No.
I'm sure they completely just willingly put that on the cover.
Also, didn't that movie came out when? July 2nd?
July 3rd, but I saw where like apparently there were some kind of like early releases in some places that it did come out on July 2nd. And that was to coincide with the first date in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that was I'm pretty sure the trailer never showed the alien, right? I don't think it did.
I don't think so.
Look. So that was a pretty big reveal. They're like, oh, let's just put the way the alien looks on the cover of Time magazine a couple days before the movie comes out.
Yeah.
Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack. We promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go.
For you, the listeners of the All-American Spook Show podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So like we usually do, I hopped on over to audible.com and I typed in Independence Day to see what would pop up. And of course, it's got nothing to do with aliens. Actually, there's one thing here I'll mention. But the very first one that comes up is Independence Day, a Dewey Andreas novel by Ben Coase. That one is just over 14 hours long. Then there is Independence Day, What I Learned About Retirement from Some Who've Done It and Some Who Never Will by Steve Lopez. Donnie, that one's for you. That's some good reading there.
Yeah.
Just under 7 hours long. But I mean, it's a short listen,
I'm out.
7
I'm
hours,
out.
that's not too bad.
All right, watch Cat's Toys.
Shit, fuck you. It's not as bad as this. Independence Day, Frank Bascom Part 2 or Book 2 by Richard Ford. That one's almost 21 hours long, so it's not as bad as that one. I've convinced you, so you're speechless. There's also Independence Day Crucible, the official movie prequel. Now, I'm not sure if that's a prequel. Okay, it's a prequel to Independence Day Resurgence, which was the sequel to this movie. That one's by Greg Keyes, and that one's almost 10 and a half hours long. So that is an Audible exclusive. But so if any of that sounds cool to you, you can go over to audibletrial.com/spookshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/spookshow for your free audio book. So now I'm going to cruise on over to IMDb, and I'm going to click on plot summary to see what pops up. And we've also got our newer feature that we did last couple episodes, and I'll do that here in just a second with old Chat GPT. See, this time I didn't say Jat GPT, so we're good. IMDb, we got the short one. The aliens are coming, and their goal is to invade and destroy Earth. Fighting superior technology, mankind's best weapon is the will to survive. All right, so now I'm just going to hop on over to Chat GPT, and I'm going to type in explain Independence Day. I might have to say movie.
Probably, yeah.
1996. Just so because I'm sure if you just put Independence Day, it's going to our forefathers in 1776. Okay, here we go. Independence Day. It's like a cosmic summer party where aliens crash and uninvited, and Will Smith says, not on my watch. He whips out his pilot skills, saves the day, and leaves the extraterrestrials wondering if they should have RSVP'd. It's like fireworks, but with more explosions and a side of humor. So grab some popcorn, buckle up, and get ready for an out-of-this-world Independence Day celebration. I don't know if that really explained anything, but other than just like, you're going to see some shit blow up, and it's Will Smith. So there we go. But pretty much that's your best explanation of the movie in a lot of ways. That's what you're here for. Let's watch shit get blown up, and Will Smith be funny, right? And Jeff Goldblum be awkward like he is in everything.
One thing I guess you could say is like this is the blueprint for disaster movies, summer disasters, and for blockbuster summer movies or whatever. But itself is taken from other blueprints, right? You can say like the War of the Worlds novel / movie or whatever.
Yeah.
Or any number of other alien invasion movies that this kind of takes and rolls with and makes it bigger budgeted. But like Day the Earth Stood Still, which I think is referenced in the movie. One scene, I believe they're watching it, or it's playing at some. And even kind of reminded me. You remember V, the miniseries?
Yeah.
And they did a remake of it some later. I never saw the remake or whatever, but the V, the miniseries, kind of although it's stretched out in the course of much longer period of time than just a couple of days or whatever this was.
They really lean into the sci-fi type aspect in a lot of ways too with this one. Like, you get a feel for Star Trek, right? There's some of that there. You get a little bit of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, a little bit mixed in there. It's really just a mix of everything you'd seen leading up to that point. But done on so much of a grander scale for the time. This is like, a lot of times these type of movies are like, the aliens would show up and they're like, we're going to blow some shit up. But maybe in the end, they don't really blow everything up. They find a way to prevent that from happening. This one's like, no, these fucking things roll in. There's a countdown. They don't give them any kind of ultimatum, right? They just roll in, hover over them for about 30 minutes and then blow everything the fuck up. They take out all the major cities basically. And then everything that's left after that, they're just going to have to, figure out a way to take this shit down.
Yeah.
But I think that's what sets this one apart, at least at the time, because it really delivered the goods. Like, fuck, you saw the Empire State Building go down. You see the White House get blown up, right? All that shit. You see DC go, like all that, all the things that like you want to see, like Will, you talked about, and want to see the mass destruction in movies. You see it in this one, right?
Oh yeah, and I think on top of that, I think I read somewhere that this had the most models blown up for any movie.
I don't doubt it. I mean, that moment when, like, they just unleash hell and take everything out. I mean, it's pretty fucking epic.
Yeah. I mean, just they had a really good visual of that first building exploding, like out and just kind of taking over. Yeah. I mean,
what was it in LA whenever they gather on top of the building? Like, there's like some nuts that are like, welcome to Earth, and they're all holding up signs and shit like welcoming the aliens, and then that beam just opens up and just obliterates the movie. But that shot where it goes straight down, like whoosh, and then just pushes out.
You see all the glass shattering out.
It's like all 100 and something floors just whoosh, boom.
Then it does it to the Empire State Building, right? The same thing.
Yep.
Then how convenient is that the First Lady lives just long enough to say goodbye to her husband.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. You didn't even operate, man.
We quickly came to that conclusion. Look, millions of people just died. We got other shit to move on to here. She's dead. Well, that's kind of that, let's rush through a few things, kind of convenient wrap-ups, stuff like that in these type of movies, like especially of the 90s. Action flick where like things happen kind of conveniently quickly, so we can move on.
Well, you see, I think he had already moved on because he tried hooking up with Goldblum's wife.
Yeah, see.
So
that's why Goldblum punched him apparently years prior. Tried to move in on her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at the end of the movie, that's what he was talking about. He was talking about his wife.
Yeah,
not bad. Not bad at all.
Not bad at all, buddy. One last little underhanded dig right before the end. But how about right there at the opening credits, though? Does that not scream 90s action flick? Just at the very beginning, when Roland Emmerich, independent,
Yeah, it's almost similar to Demolition Man.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like, okay, well, I guess if you're going to rip off anything, it's the perfection of that movie.
Why do I have the urge to knit?
Although, didn't they come out about the same time? Like, it's not like one is a knock of
Demolition Man was 94, maybe.
Okay, well, roughly.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, but I was sitting there. I'm like, oh yeah, you're in for some good 90s action cheese here. As soon as you haven't even seen anything other than the shoom doom doom, shoom doom doom. The words flying up on the screen.
Yeah, Demolition Man was 93.
Okay, wow,
Yeah.
93 for real.
Yeah.
That's when the restaurant wars ended. God, it's been that long. Huh? Taco Bell has been king that long. Anyway, I really feel though that the writers Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich, they really did a good job in this movie, like mixing the exposition and then just getting on with it. Like they're telling all the things that you need to know to keep the story moving, but like it doesn't bog anything down. That's where I think like the Razzie for best writing for it was very specific. What best writing for 100 million? I think that's a little harsh. I mean, because
definitely,
like you said, Smoke, like fast forward 5 or 10 years and you're like, man, you're begging for this kind of thing, right? So the examples we've had in the time since, it's like, okay, well, it got worse. So if you thought this was bad.
they get a bit bloated now sometimes, as far as like whenever the convoluted plot lines. And I know people like different generations, maybe they crave that type of thing, or they like that type of thing. But yeah, if you were to compare some of these types of action movies to even some of the action movies of today, like some of the tail end now as we get to the Marvel movies, where everything's got a fishtail into this and that, and everything's got to tie up, and then it's got to link to the next movie, and I think some of that gets a little convoluted now. So,
well, yeah, now they've made a whole other thing in the time sense of like franchises. Like everything has to be ready. So you have to set everything up in this movie to make the next one, and so on and so forth. So yeah, now they've made things more complicated than they needed to be in the years since. But like I think in this one, like they do a great job of just, all right, here's what you need to know, but we're going to keep moving as we're telling you. Walk with me, like. Walk with me while I'll explain, like, here's our history of Jeff Goldblum and the president, right? But we're continuing to move. Here's where this guy fits in and this woman fits in. But let's keep moving. And then, bam, here's the alien. Here's the ships arriving, and here's them just, fucking obliterating everything. I think that all kind of happens fairly quickly, like, in the first 45 minutes or so.
And, the little things that happen that are interesting in the movie, but like probably like the people talking about that nominated him for a Razzie is convenient things to where the president's, the first lady hooks up with, not hooks up. That's not the right term.
I don't remember.
Meets up with Will Smith's wife, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. How all the characters kind of come
it's
together.
It's a different movie if you leave in hooks up.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah. It is. There is a lot of conveniences there for sure.
But I mean, that's the way, that's how you link a movie. That's how you make it go, as far as the plot tie in to dovetail together.
Yeah, I think those things. It's very convenient, and it's probably in some ways, to some more cultured minds, right, than ours. It's lazy, but I think it's just like, all right, well, we're just getting to what we want to see. Like we got to get this. We have to have a story, but we just need to keep it moving too. So I think they do a good job of doing both here.
Yeah, kind of along what you just said. Just kind of like struck me. It's like, all right, look, I walk fast, I talk fast. Follow me, keep up.
Yeah, like yeah. They're not assuming you know everything, but we're just going to show you what you need to know, and you're going to hold our hand, but chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. Let's keep it moving.
Before you question something big's going to happen, and you'll move on.
Yeah, exactly. But you get to what you want to see, and that's the important part. And that's another thing too. Just going back a second. I mean, like the movie was what theatrical cut was 2 hours and 25 minutes. To me, it didn't feel like that. Was there? There was not really any dragging. No. I mean, there's certain parts where it's like, they had to slow down a little bit. They had to bring the temperature down a little bit to get to the next big thing. But for the most part, man, this thing is just fucking clicking, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for it being as 2.5, well, the cut I saw was, 2 hours and 24 minutes?
2:25, yeah, 2:25, yeah.
And for that, yeah, it definitely does not feel like that long.
It feels more like an hour and a half, hour and 45 movie, but no, it's about 2.5 hours. So I think they did a good job on pacing for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just follow me, Big Daddy.
One of the first questions I had though, when they see the ships on that something's coming, right? Wouldn't you think something that big would have shown up on the radars
before it hit the moon?
Before it made it to the moon?
Yeah,
not only that, but like, we can see the moon pretty good in daylight, and even
you look up and see that probably, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, you would kind of have to.
Didn't they even say like this thing's half the size of the moon or some shit like that? Right?
Yeah,
like,
they said it's a quarter the size of the moon, and then you also have like, but if something like that is a quarter the size of the moon, and then you also have it was 30 about 3 dozen ships about 15 miles wide.
Mm-hmm.
But when David and Hiller take out the mothership, they fly that alien fighter over to the mothership.
Mm.
It doesn't look that big.
No,
no, like it doesn't.
The scale is off.
Yeah, the scale is off.
Yeah. It definitely does. Like it looks big, but it doesn't look that big. They definitely didn't do a good job because they pretty quickly show you. I mean, you see the size of that little ship that they're in. That it's roughly big enough for just a few people, right? Mm. It's a small ship that they have at Area 51, and then they take that up to the mothership, and it looks like a big tick flying around in space. But I was just curious, like you would think, okay, something that fucking big would have popped, even in the mid '90s, would have popped up on the radars before it gets over the top of the moon. And then we still question like what the fuck we just saw, you know?
And what was it about it when it first came into the atmosphere? You know, the flames. Is that just because it's supposed to be re-entry?
I guess so. I think that's kind of what they were doing there.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah,
and it made
because,
it made a more dramatic entrance too. Like,
yeah,
you know,
like you don't actually see it until you just think it's like maybe a weather anomaly or like a meteor or something, and it turns out
it finally breaks through the clouds and the fire or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's a fucking mothership over New York.
I don't know. I guess that maybe that they didn't mention cloaking device or anything like that, but I mean, like you're saying, if it's coming from the moon, it's coming towards Earth, you're going to see it well before if it's that big.
And you just nailed it right there. It's an easy fix. One line that says something about a cloaking device.
Yeah.
Then that question just goes away. Okay, well, they couldn't see it because fucking aliens. But I don't think, unless I missed it, I don't think they ever said that. So.
I think so. Yeah.
The one shot they missed is a homeless guy walking around with the end of his knife.
Well, they were pretty close. There was like a preacher or something. Like the world's already been blown up or something, right? I think it's already went down. And Vivica A. Fox, her character and their crew are out looking for people, and then there's just this random preacher, just like the Bible didn't say nothing about this, and then they just leave that motherfucker like, okay, keep on rolling,
Yeah, like the random blurbs, like the one lady's like, "Oh, I hope they bring Elvis back," or like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was the alien welcomers.
Yeah.
I love that there is an active alien invasion going on. Like the ships are hovering over all major cities. The world would be sent into panic. Like, what the fuck is going on? Meanwhile, Vivica Fox, her character, she goes to the strip club to go work and brings the kid and the dog with her to the strip club.
Money don't make itself.
Yeah. And really the only explanation they had is like, well, I didn't have a babysitter, and because the world is going to shit, nobody's here. Like that was her complaint. Not that there's a fucking half moon-sized alien aircraft up in the sky. No, like there ain't nobody spending money here at the club tonight. Oh, I didn't have a babysitter, and I had to bring the kid and the dog. I did like the Smoke. I figured you could appreciate the Air Force firefight. Like the big fight, the first one they had when they approached the aliens and everything.
Yeah, with when they send out the fighters.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool scene.
Yeah, that was. We didn't mention this at the beginning. I didn't think about it. I mean, I did mention about the squadron thing and all that, but the military was supposed to be more cooperative with this movie than they were, and the reason they weren't is because with equipment and letting them borrow a bunch of things and whatnot is because they wouldn't take out the part about Area 51. Apparently,
that was a pretty big part. Pretty big part of the plot there, right?
Yeah. So you could see they weren't gonna change that part of the storyline.
Yeah, no.
But that I guess they didn't give them all the access to a certain amount of equipment they were gonna give them beforehand.
Like when Will Smith's character Hiller takes one of the ships down, and then he opens it up, and the alien's like, blah, 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 and he just punches it out. He just knocked his fucking, and I think he killed it, right?
No, he didn't.
No, he knocked him out.
No.
Yeah, it did.
I guess he just knocked it out.
Yeah. And then he's just talking shit and kicking it as he's driving it or dragging it across the desert.
And then it conveniently lives just long enough for him to get to Area 51.
Yeah. What did you think about the whole Area 51 thing? That like Area 51 is legit. It's not just, conspiracy theory rumor that everybody, even I guess to this day thinks it is. Like in this, like, no, it's a real thing. And yeah, a ship did land here in the 50s and we have it. And I like that.
Well, it's funny how things come back around again because now here in the current time we got the aliens back in the news, right?
Well, maybe I missed this. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah,
the Area 51 stuff, or just
there's another rabbit hole to go down. But there was some alien, related thing in the news where this ship or something or whatever landed. That these people heard this noise outside and they go running out in the backyard and there's like what they describe as an alien that did have some sort of cloaking device because he was like blurry looking when they looked at him directly. And the police officer saw the fire in the sky, you might want to call it. There was a big flash in the sky, and the guys that saw it in their backyard called 911, and they actually sent cops over to investigate because a police officer saw a flash in the sky. I don't know what came up after that, but it's just aliens are always
It's
in
always a
the
thing.
news.
It's always
Yeah,
way,
and it is kind of interesting that we are covering this also at the time where our own government agencies are actually didn't NASA hold up a disclosure kind of conference?
There have been some things where they're kind of like, I guess they're disclosing some things or talking about that they're investigating some UFOs and
UAPs
and stuff like that.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
It is the thing here in 2023 for sure. I guess that begs the question, Donnie. Do you believe in it?
I think it's weird. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
there's a lot. That's
weird.
another.
It's almost
alien
alien to us, you could say.
Yeah.
I've talked about that discussions with people before. Like my thoughts on it is, I don't know that there's about the aliens here necessarily, or people getting probed, getting I don't know about all that. I think they are out there. There's got to be other, the vast universe. There's got to be other galaxies where the sun is close enough to, the star or whatever is close enough for it to make life on it or whatever. Somewhere out there that hasn't been able to get here yet. I don't believe necessarily that they've been here before.
I could believe anything, right? I remember hearing one long time ago, maybe it was my grandpa or my dad or something a long time ago saying, like, basically, if you can imagine it, if you can think it in your head, that means somebody has already thought of it and imagined it before you, so it's not unusual to think, I don't think that something like that could be out there, but whether or not, like you said, they've ever been here or they are here or will come here, who knows? But Will, what do you think?
Do I think that there's other life out there? I find it hard for there not to be, but to think that they're so far ahead of us where not only are they smarter, not only do they have better technology, but they've also figured out clearly how to travel at the speed of light. To be able to move around. I find that a little tough.
They'd have to be a much, like, thousands of years more advanced than us. What makes you think that there would be something that much older than us?
Right.
So,
and I think I'd seen I think it was something from Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about the fact that it took 400 million years or something like that for our planet to come together, cool off, a time where pretty much nothing was here, build up people. If you call that the average, how would you look at other civilizations putting together something so much faster than we did?
Yeah, how could they have done it any faster? You're right. I don't know. It's an interesting side conversation to have with a movie like this. Who knows? We are far from the professionals, and I'm sure there's some alien conspiracy theory podcast out there hosted by Smoke that we're not aware of. That
I'm sure there's some out. Well, there literally is some out there hosted by Dan Aykroyd.
Well, yeah. Well, I think like him and his family before him, like all about like paranormal shit, alien stuff. Right? There's all kinds of. Yeah. He's got like a long history with that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to this one, but kind of on the same path. If only Dr. Serizawa hadn't destroyed the oxygen destroyer. Oh, wait. That's a different movie altogether. My bad. It really could have come in handy here, right? Because when they shoot the nukes, they do nothing.
Well, they actually do something.
They
ended up. Well, no, they nuked Houston.
Well, they did do that. Yeah. They made Houston uninhabitable for 100 years, but other than that.
Yeah, you ever been to Houston though?
Yeah, I have. You know what? The driving sucks there, so
yeah, it's rough.
If they had been over in Detroit, it wouldn't even matter, right?
Yeah. We're sorry for disparaging the good. Yeah, anyone that's listening from Detroit or Houston,
the water tastes better.
We should have put the Houston Detroit hate disclaimer at the top of this episode.
Yeah, let me see if we get any people in Michigan.
I doubt it.
We might.
But if we do, we just lost them.
I'm sorry, there you guys. Click.
But we just
there goes
gained,
one.
But we just gained a huge alien conspiracy theorist, following. So there's that.
Yeah.
They're pinging
until the next episode. They're like, these motherfuckers aren't talking about no more goddamn aliens.
Yeah, man, fuck these guys. They're talking about these bullshit horror movies, man. I ain't listening to this shit. Yeah, and that's another thing too we should point out. Like, this is not a horror movie, right? There might be some, especially the alien when he takes over the professor. We referenced it earlier. That feels like a horror movie. That feels like it belongs in the Alien franchise, right? Like, there's some horror things here, but it is not a horror movie.
No, I think that's probably the only part that you could compare it to Alien or to John Carpenter's The Thing, even maybe a little bit.
Yeah, some of the stuff with the aliens is kind of horror-ish, but not much past that for sure. Other than maybe when there's an explosion and Vivica A. Fox and grabs her kid and ducks inside that thing, and then I love that scene.
Come on, dog.
The dog.
Come on, Dutch, whatever his fucking name is, and the dog there's a fireball going from a fucking epic alien explosion coming down this tunnel wherever they are, and the dog just jumps like yay,
and it doesn't go where the oxygen was. Like it doesn't even.
Yeah, the door's open. They'd be fried, right? Wouldn't they have been flash fried?
Yeah.
And nope, because they got in that door. They're good.
Nope.
And the dog was saved.
Big thumbs up.
A kid and a dog taken out. Of course, Donnie with the dog.
Yeah, I mean,
we want to see the dog get fried, but Donnie's like, no, I hate.
Yeah, I can't do it, man. Can't do it. I'm out.
So David, his big plan is to go up, plant a virus and take them out. Literally, the only way to do this is to take a thumb drive in one of the alien spacecraft and go all the way the fuck up to the mothership, plant it, and then that will take down the shields enough for them to bomb them with nukes, whatever they got to do to take the ships out. But before they go up, this is when you get the big iconic Independence Day speech. We even have the little audio drop in the open, the Summer Disaster open of this. Today is our Independence Day, But this speech by Bill Pullman here, it really is kind of a big iconic, big movie moment, right? So they go up to the mothership, they upload the virus, take down the shields, and then I love that the only way that in the end they take out the ship is once the shields go down. Like Russell is the last fighter jet, Randy Quaid's character who's been like a drunk loser the entire movie. Of course, he's the only one that still has missiles on his fighter. So he goes up to shoot the missiles and the missiles lock. So the only way he can take them out is the kamikaze right up its ass. Just
alienist.
But I love
he was the aliens. He got abducted and they probed him. He was probing them this time.
I love that he just gone, right? It blows up, takes it down, and then the general's like, tell all the other fighters around the world we figured it out. What? To tell somebody to suicide kamikaze each one? Is that how you figured it out?
No, yes.
And then I guess the last big kaboom is David and Hiller actually, once they get up there and upload the virus to get out, basically take out the mothership.
Now they're like, we got an idea. We're sending the Japanese in. They love that kamikaze stuff. Oh, we just lost our Japanese.
Oh, shit. Damn it. We just lost Japan. Well, there you go. That's Independence Day. That's how we chose to celebrate it. I think it's perfect. It all worked out. It was perfect for this summer disaster bit that we're doing, and it's a huge summer blockbuster. We haven't really done a lot. I mean, we've done some big movies, but we haven't done a lot of big, legit summer blockbuster movies on the show. So this has got to be one of the first. So it's always cool. And that was kind of one of our, I'm going to say the main reason, but it was one of the reasons that we wanted to do the summer disaster bit, period, was that we haven't had a chance to do these big epic disaster type of flicks. So, we kind of came up with this whole concept. So this was one of the reasons for sure. So I guess Smoke, you brought it to the table. So I guess we'll let you go first. What's your thoughts and your star rating on it?
Yeah, it's been a little bit since I've seen it. This is, I don't know how many years, well over 6, 7 years maybe. And I've never seen the sequels. That's what I'm going to get to at some point down the road. But
I'm here and still haven't.
Wait, what's one sequel? Or just how many sequels?
It's just one.
Just
they just one. Yeah, I think they had a plan for it to be a whole thing, but then that one kind of bombed. So there's all right. That's enough.
Okay, so, yeah, I've never even seen that
Just
sequel
the one,
either. But yeah, this one I saw it in the theater first time around. I've seen it a couple times since, but like I said, it's been at least 7 years since the last time I've seen it. But it's still, it's something you don't really forget. You might forget the specifics, but I've always loved this movie from the first time I saw it. I think it's got that blueprint down, summer disaster blockbuster or whatever, pretty well. And what can you say negative about it? Really, I can't think of much other than, like you said, the story is well enough, and it's got its little things you have to just go along with, and it's not realistic, of course.
Yeah,
we're talking about alien invasion here, so I mean, I don't know why they nominated for a Razzie when we're talking about an alien invasion. Who cares if it's convenient that they get together this way or that way, or what happens in the story?
Because they didn't feel they couldn't shit on the English patient, so they had to shit on something.
That's true. But no, this is an enjoyable movie, and it always is every time I watch it. So it was cool, like not seeing it for a while and revisiting it. So it's I knew the basic stuff that was going to happen, but I've got some of the little dialogues and stuff along the way, so that was fun. I'd give it 4. I mean, I enjoy it. Just a fun movie.
Will, what do you say?
Yeah, I'm going to echo Smoke. I mean, a 4. It's your typical summer blockbuster at this point. Just quick moving. Here's your catchphrases. I'm surprised Will Smith didn't have a song in it. And then you get your happy ending and move on. It's a fun movie, and people still remember it today.
That's the thing too. Like, there are cheesy moments in it, but it's not a cheesy movie. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're making fun of the situation, so to speak, or playing it lighthearted or anything. Like, they're playing it serious. Like any of these movies, there's funny. Like, here's Randy Quaid, he's a drunk. Wonk, 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 wonk. There's that kind of shit. But for the most part, it's played pretty seriously, right? So, like, you can't knock it for that. Donnie, what do you say?
There's a, and I forget the doctor, the scientist, and they always say, their technology is so much more advanced than ours, but they seem to have the same computer software. I know that's
the 1995 laptop that Jeff Goldblum has.
Yeah, still running Adobe Premiere.
Yeah. But he's able to easily hack into
Windows 95 is working at the time. I mean, how do you get better than that?
Yeah.
It's rough. But no, like some of the it is kind of dated a little bit, but it's hard to really, like Smoke said, it's hard to really knock it because you can't really look at it from a from a 2023 perspective, because then you're just picking it apart, and this isn't really a movie that really needs to be picked apart.
No, I don't think so.
But all of that said, big ratings boost for me for the use of miniatures, which is kind of a lost art these days, especially these days with CGI everything.
Yeah.
That said, this is a rewatch every single time. I've probably seen this a handful of times.
Oh yeah.
It's always fun, always enjoyable. Like everybody said, I'm going to go 3 3/4.
So pretty close. I'm going to go with what Will and Smoke said. I'm going to say 4 stars. Because it's just a fun popcorn flick. Like, you don't need to be the smartest person in the room to just sit down and enjoy it for what it is. And if you like this mass destruction type of flicks, which obviously we do, and that's the whole premise of the Summer Disaster, then this one it doesn't get much better than this. If you just want to see some shit blown up and some aliens invade and just some ass kicking, so I think it meets all those criteria. So I'm going to go 4 stars, which brings us to 3.9 stars here, and we'll talk about the critic aggregates and stuff here in just a second. But before we get into all that.
Connections from the crypt.
Let him finish. All right, he's done now.
Yeah, got to let her run out.
Wait to say, just let him finish. Not this movie. That was a different movie. But.
Just let him work it out.
Yeah. So cast side, we've got Jeff Goldblum from The Fly. When we did that episode. Also, Robert Loggia for Over the Top, and Randy Quaid for Caddyshack 2. And on the crew side, we got makeup effects artist Thomas Flouts. He did Critters, Malignant, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, when we did that with the Cinema 9 podcast. And also Hellraiser Bloodline and Cyborg. So those are the connections for past Spook Show episodes.
Boy, that's all across the board, isn't it? And every time you bring up Critters, I forget that we've already done Critters. I'm like, oh, yeah, we did do that. I know it was a while back, but I don't know why I keep forgetting about it. That leads us to you, Will.
Okay, I didn't look it up on this one, so
I don't know if there's. But here's the thing, though. This is like a lot of the movies here we've done in the Summer Disaster. I don't think you can put a number on it, because God knows how many people died when the when the cities burned. So you could say I think it's
Houston too.
Yeah, Houston if there was anyone left, they got taken out by the nuke. So I think you could easily say millions died here, right? If it's anything less than 1 million, it's horseshit.
8 people died.
Shit. Well, okay, all right. 8, okay, if you're saying 8, it's like 8 on screen, right?
I guess, but no. Let's kind of go with that.
1 million or 8.
It's either 8 or
yeah, that's the number, 8 or 1 million.
That's just splitting hairs, right? Oh no, it's not. That's a lot.
Yeah.
No, it's got to be more than millions because they hit other countries.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm saying at least 1 million, but yeah, like because most of the cities I think had been mostly evacuated, kind of right before. But then again, I mean, like New York, right? I mean, there were people like running down the street, still getting away from it, like Harvey Firestein. Oh my God! And whoosh. See, I don't know. I'd say it qualifies as unsure because God knows, 8 on screen, but millions in your heart. That's who died.
My official answer is a bunch.
Yeah, all right, we'll go with that. So that leads us to let's talk about the kill reel.
Highlight kill.
All right, so this one's a little tough because to me there wasn't one really good death scene. You know what I mean? Like some guy got taken out and this was like, holy shit, that's kind of what the highlight kill is. So like for this one, I'm going to say it's just that the alien invasion blowing up every major city in the world scene. When you see, the Capitol building blown up and the Empire State Building. Just that when the coordinated strike, alien strike scene. I think that's the highlight because that's the iconic moment from this movie. Like, other than, if there's 2 things you remember from this movie, it's the Independence Day speech and then that beam coming out of those ships and just fucking laying waste to everything, right? So I think that's got to be the highlight kill. So it's not an easy one, but once again, this isn't a horror movie either. But, since this is in the grand traditions that we have, we're still going to continue these. So that's why we move on to this.
Gore score.
Well, it was is it PG-13 or PG this movie is rated?
I'm pretty sure it's PG-13. Yes, PG-13.
So, of course, there's not going to be a vast amount of gore in here. In fact, I don't remember there being much of any actual human blood. I can't remember any scenes that have, like... Now, the one that I'm thinking of that's, gory maybe a little bit is the alien autopsy. The attempted alien autopsy.
Yeah.
When they start cutting, then it wakes up.
And maybe right after that when he kind of lays waste to the scientist and then he's got the one by his throat.
Yeah, he's got him by. There's definitely violence in those scenes. But he's not. It's not like an R-rated movie where where he might, like John Carpenter's The Thing, where it would rip the guy apart or something.
I guess this falls into that discussion of what do you consider gore? Do you consider millions of people dying all at once around the world through various explosions gory, or?
Well, if we saw it on the screen, it definitely would be.
Yeah, true. But you didn't see him like blow apart. Or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I try and talk about the on-screen gore just to give it an actual, because then if it was off-screen, there's a lot of messed up stuff happening. An entire Empire State Building was leveled, and the other building in California, right, was leveled or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And there might not have been anybody in in some of the other buildings. I can't remember if there's staff and still left in the White House when it was blown up. Might have been something.
Yeah, probably somebody.
But at any rate, it would have been devastatingly gory if in real life all that stuff going on. But on screen, the only thing I can really think of is the alien getting dissected a little bit and him getting shot, the alien getting shot, some alien blood splatter or whatever. And a little bit of human violence of him choking the guy out and throwing him on the floor. Probably just have to go with that for actual, we're talking about gore. This is the gore score. So gore, I'll give it a 3.
I think overall, the critic aggregates and whatnot somewhat agree with what we said. IMDb gives it 7 out of 10 stars. Metascore of 59, that's out of 100. So that's, let's just go ahead and call it 60. And then over on Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter gets 68%, and the audience score is 75%. So I think, we're basically on par with what most people feel about the movie. Like, it's just a fun popcorn, mass destruction type flick. So if you enjoy that kind of stuff, then you'll really love the shit out of this if you haven't seen it. If not, we've spoiled it for you. But we haven't really spoiled anything because you need to see it for yourself. At least those major scenes of destruction, you need to see that for yourself. So I guess that's enough for this week. The disaster has calmed down for now. But it continues next week. A little bit. We're not watching another movie next week. Next week, we're going to be doing a Spook Show Spotlight episode where we're basically just going to be talking about our favorite disaster movies. I have a feeling this one might make the list. But maybe we talk about some of the ones that we haven't or are not necessarily planned for the rest of the summer disaster or that we haven't talked about. Maybe we talk about some other titles that we really love. There's tons of these type of movies, right? So we'll take a deep dive into that. What are some of our favorites, some other ones that we recommend and all that. So we'll just have a little bit of fun with that with a shorter episode next week for episode 168. And our next movie will be the following week on July 17th, episode 169, the sequel to 28 Days Later, 28 Weeks Later from, I believe that was 2007. So we'll be getting around to that. So I guess that's it. So for Will, Donnie, Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are the All-American Spook Show. And we'll talk to you next week for our favorite disaster flicks.
So goodbye, everybody. And remember, please, for the next day or so, the terrible lesson you learned tonight.